Inevitably, I'll have to get into this at some point. Harry and Meghan, I mean, all of that, Sarah, has it dented respect for the monarchy as a whole?
Yeah, when you look at the opinion polling around the royal family and the individual members of the royal family, it surged after the death of the Queen, as you would expect, that kind of sympathy vote for them. Then when the tail end of last year with the Netflix documentary coming out, and then the beginning of this year with Spare, we saw it plummet for the King, for Camilla, for Prince William. They all saw their popularity ratings drop drastically, but they have been climbing up again since then, and I think we're seeing a recovery of that.
And given that it was depicted, and in many ways was, a matter of direct competition between the two sides of the House of Windsor, did everyone lose equally?
Well, Harry and Meghan's popularity fell by the most, dramatically into the negative numbers. And I think, generally speaking, they will see this as vindication of their policy to keep calm, keep their heads down, not comment on what has been said across the Atlantic, and just get on with their jobs. And so far that seems to be paying off in terms of the polling, at least. We don't know. Look, the deadline has passed for responses to the invitations that were sent out for the coronation. We haven't got an answer from Harry and Meghan as yet. Contingency plans are being put in place, but there's an awful lot that needs to be done if they are coming or not. Not least of all the seating plans.
A little weird that we haven't had answers.
I think there's an awful lot of considerations to be made for them to make that decision. There's also the issue of security, John, because we know what has emerged from Prince Harry's court battle with the Home Office is that he has been asked to give 28 days' notice of any trips to the United Kingdom so that his security requirements can be assessed and met. And so has there not been a response yet? What does that mean for the security plans? But, seating arrangements, where they'll be in Westminster Abbey, where they'll stay. They've still got Frogmore Cottage, although they're set to be losing it soon. But there's an awful lot going on behind the scenes.
Tracy, what's going on behind the scenes? I mean, I know there's a limit to what we know. What do you reckon is going on behind the scenes?
This is when, John, I glory in my title of historian, because I could tell you all about the past, but I can't predict the future. And I think it could go either way. I really wouldn't want to call that. What I would say is this isn't anything new. Royal rifts, friends falling out with their heirs and spares. We saw it a lot in the Georgian period. And in fact, it got much worse than what we've been witnessing in recent times. But that is going to play out on the 6th of May.
I do love a bit of historic perspective. Now, elsewhere, mind you, Sarah, Joe Biden, he's not going to the coronation, which initially was it a snub, but it's not a snub. I mean, presidents don't go to coronations, right?
No, just imagine, we're talking about security, just imagine the security implications of that, but he is sending the First Lady, Jill Biden, as his representative. We don't really know very much about the guest list as yet, not least of all those two guests you were just asking me about. But we will start to get more and more information about
it will be loaded with kings and queens from all over the world.
It will, European royalty. But I think that Charles also wants this to be a more inclusive coronation. That means there'll be a lot more representatives of charities, a lot more what you would call ordinary people. We know that peers are not automatically guaranteed a seat in the Abbey. We're not going to have all of the dukes kneeling to pay homage before the King. We will have more representatives of charities and organisations that the King has worked with as well. But it's a much smaller coronation ceremony because it's only 2,000 people.
Like the last coronation.
No.
We remember the old footage, as you say, of peers of the realm in their full-on ermine robes and coronets and so on. That's not going to be the case.
And Westminster Abbey had to be closed for a very long period of time in order to make the adjustments to it. Tiered seating, stadium-style seating put in to pack 8,000 people in. That's not happening this time. That also means that it's still open to the public. Not so easy for the King and Queen Consort to go and rehearse, and therefore it's been reported they've got a mock Westminster Abbey set up in Buckingham Palace with all of the right measurements so that they can practice and make sure they get every bit of this ceremony right.
Yeah, I mean, What do you think about this? As a historian on the subject, Tracy, are you going to miss some of the grandest extreme excesses that we've seen in the past?
And we've certainly seen lots of those, particularly the coronation of George IV, which was the most expensive in history. And apparently he appeared in Westminster Abbey like some bird of paradise, sort of with flanked in feathers and dripping with jewels. I think that was a bit of a one-off. I think, though, we shouldn't overplay this sense that it's going to be pared down. There's still going to be the pomp and pageantry and the bling that we mentioned right at the beginning, because as somebody said in Victoria's reign, the mass of people want the gilding for their money. They want to see a crown and a scepter and all that sort of thing. And I think that still stands true today.
Oh, that's right. I'm just wondering about King Charles III, because on that day he's going to be surrounded by monarchs from all over the world, crowned heads from everywhere, presidents and prime ministers. And you just wonder what it's going to be like. Not that he lacks experience in these matters, but when it comes to presiding over these gatherings of the greatest and the good from around the world, how does he conduct himself? Well, it's hidden from the likes of you and I, although maybe you two guys are familiar visitors to Buckingham Palace on state occasions. I am not, and I go by clips of film, down the years, seeing the late Queen, so relaxed, so informal,
so relaxed, and yet so experienced, of course, by the time she came to the end of her reign, but not when she became Queen. And she felt a bit condescended by her prime ministers, Winston Churchill among them, for being young when she came to the throne. Charles is certainly not a young monarch. He's very, very experienced. He's had a very long apprenticeship. And he has watched his mother at close range for a long time and actually taken on a lot of her responsibilities in recent years, particularly with those state visits, with the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, for example. He's been doing the job for quite a while now.
Yeah, I mean, Tracy, certainly towards the later period of her reign, the late Queen had all the status and stature she needed to just take the mickey out of any president who wandered into Buckingham Palace and do so at will. And they just had to stand there and take it. When she famously stuck it to Vladimir Putin, didn't she, on one occasion? Had a laugh at his expense when he got out of order.
Absolutely, and she had the experience to back that up, and all sorts of records broken in terms of number of heads of state that she met, of course, number of prime ministers that she swore in. She just achieved that record towards the very end of her life, and so that there are some benefits that come with that length of experience. But as Sarah was saying, our new king has that too. He's the longest serving Prince of Wales in history. So he comes with that wealth of experience. I think he's going to know exactly what he's doing at all of those behind the scenes gatherings that I wish I could say I'm familiar with, John, but I would be fine.
Well, right. I just somehow imagined that you were. I mean, on that day, for all the gold coaches, Sarah, and all the the diamonds the size of rugby balls and all of the rest of it, the king must be thinking back to his mother, the late Queen, and thinking, what a tough act to follow.
Oh, incredibly. I mean, her legacy is impossible to measure, really, isn't it? And I think that will be very much with him. It's a sombre, a sacred day, and he will be thinking very much about the past, but also the future and the legacy that he might have.